Chapter-5, The Awakening of the Soul. The age in which we live has its advantages as well as its disadvantages. In these days of civilization and enlightenment, of industry and enterprise, of trade and manufacture, of steam and electricity, of scientific discoveries and inventions, there are on all sides cheering indications of a material improvement and prosperity. But the age does not seem to be favorable to the spiritual interest of man. In the midst of all this pomp and splendor of material prosperity, ill fares the spirit. While the senses enjoy an endless variety of physical comforts, the soul droops and pines in an unchangeable atmosphere. Modern civilization is eminently and essentially materialistic. All departments of thought and speculation are more or less of this character. The politics of the age is Bethlehemism, its ethics utilitarianism, its religion rationalism, its philosophy positivism. All seems dull, mechanical, unspiritual, and lifeless. In the discharge of moral and religious duties especially, and in all corners affecting the interest of the soul, men follow not the high and immutable principles of conscience, but the low and convenient standard of conventionalism. All the nobler instincts and aspirations are smothered by the ignoble worship of custom and tradition. The orthodox fondly look through the vista of bygone days to a romantic past, peopled with saints and prophets and angels of God, adorned with all that is fairest and goodliest and holiest, and illuminated by God's direct revelations. And they fancy that by believing in that, they will be saved. Those, on the other hand, who are beyond the pole of orthodoxy are giving themselves up to the wild vagaries of free thinking and skepticism, though outwardly, for political reasons, they conform as strictly to forms and symbols as the orthodox. Thus, as regards both those who are within and those who are outside the Orthodox Church, there is underneath apparent conformity, a striking absence of spiritual faith, that faith which is the evidence of the things not seen, the substance of things hoped for. From the bigotry and dogmatism of traditional creeds to the cold abstraction of rationalism, the entire religious life of the 19th century betrayed a lamentable want of spiritual insight and that of direct inspiration which was witnessed in the life and sadhana of Sri Ramakrishna, and which alone can give us light unto salvation. From such tendencies which characterized the civilization of the last century, India was not altogether free, oblivious of her ancient greatness and the great spiritual traditions of centuries. India, during the first half of the last century, was brought up in the school of English thought and was inoculated with Western ideas and sentiments, as we have noted earlier. Few cared about the sacred interest of the soul. With the advent of the Brahmo Samaj, which attacked the idolatry, there was a clash of religion, which resulted in a sort of spiritual stagnation and enslaved the spirit of the nation, which cried to heaven for redemption. It was at this momentous period in the cultural and spiritual history of India that God revealed himself to man in the person of a semi-literate Brahmin, born in an obscure village of Bengal during the 1830s of the last century. But before we discuss anything about him, it is necessary to inquire how God reveals himself to man. This is also necessary in comprehending the significance of the life and achievements of Swami Abhedananda. The first manifestation of God is in nature, and it is from this that the earliest religious impressions of men and nations have been derived. This is the primary and ordinary revelation of God, which is accessible and intelligible to all. Man, in the simplicity of his uneducated mind, and without the aid of logic or philosophy, traces nature up to nature's God. He cannot but do so. The universe exhibits on all sides innumerable marks of design and beauty, of adaptation and method, which one cannot explain except by referring them to an intelligent first cause, the creator of this vast universe. Each object in nature reminds us of the Maker and draws the heart in spontaneous reverence to his infinite majesty. The stupendous Himalayas, the vast deep Atlantic, the flowing rivulet, the fragrant and beautiful rose, the warbling bird, and all that is grand and beautiful in the world below and the heavens above, declare the glory of God and show his handiwork, and inspire devotional feelings in the soul towards him who made them. Verily, there are tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. But is God manifest in the universe simply as its maker, who created it, but has no connection whatsoever with it at present? Does the universe bear the same relation to God as the watch does to the watchmaker? Certainly not. The world cannot exist for one moment without God, said Sri Ramakrishna. He is its life and power. He is the power of all secondary powers, the true life of all living beings. He is the immanent power of the world, its indwelling life, as the Upanishads proclaim. The same power that created men and things supports them. They can have no independent power of existence apart from their maker. In him we live and move and have our being. It is not true, as some would have it, that God created the world, invested each object and being with certain powers, and left them to work independently according to certain fixed laws. If the world is real, it is real because of the divine power which animates it and constitutes its immanent vitality. But is it merely the intelligence and power of God that we see in nature? We perceive God's goodness in the countless and varied bounties which he showers on us, and which makes us gratefully bow to him as our merciful Father, who not only makes us live, but renders life agreeable. This is a great fact and cannot be ignored. God's providence. It is God's goodness viewed from different standpoints that makes the distinction. But in the ultimate analysis, to each of us, God stands in the relation of Father for the manifold blessings he daily confers on us. And thus, while we worship God as the creator and preserver of this vast and magnificent universe as a totality, we offer him the grateful homage of our hearts as our merciful Father for the particular benefits we derive from his works. But is God manifested only in matter? Is the volume of nature his only revelation to man, the only source from which we are to derive our knowledge of his nature and attributes, and our relations and obligations to him? Does God call forth our homage and gratitude simply by his wonderful manifestations in the world of matter? No, there is another revelation. There is God in history. He who created and upholds this vast universe also governs the destiny and affairs of nations. The same hand that we trace in the lily and the rose, in rivers and mountains, in the movement of the planets and the surges of the sea, regulates the economy of human society and works unseen amid its mighty revelations, its striking vicissitudes, and its progressive movements. History is not what superficial readers take it to be, a barren record of meaningless facts, a dry chronicle of past events whose evanescent interest vanished with the age when they occurred. It is the most sublime revelation of God and is full of religious significance. It is a vast sermon on God's providence with copious and varied illustrations. The nature of history is partly divine and partly human. In fact, history is not altogether secular, it is sacred. If instead of merely looking on the surface of facts and events, where only human agency is visible, we dive beneath and trace them to the great principles which underlie them and the energies which brought them about, we shall find that the source of all wisdom and power they display is God. Like nature, history reveals the marvelous workings of providence. But in what manner does God manifest himself in history? He does through great men. For what is history but the record of the achievements of those extraordinary personages who appear from time to time and lead mankind? And what is it that we read therein but the biography of such men? The history of the world, says Carlyle, is the biography of great men. The interest of nations and epochs centers in them. Eliminate them, and you destroy the basic structure of history. It is through these great men, these leaders of mankind, that God reveals himself to us in history. In short, they constitute what we mean by God in history. Great men and women have always been called the representative men or women by Emerson. They are the geniuses and heroes, the prophets, reformers, and redeemers, according to their various functions and characteristics. Now the question arises, what is that constitutes great men? What are the distinctive features in their character which give them preeminence and distinguish them from ordinary humanity? In the first place, they are destined to serve the most momentous purposes in the moral economy of all men of whatever race or country or age. With what is purely personal, local, contingent in them, we have certainly nothing to do, but that which is divine and universal in them, that which makes them great men and women, deeply concerns us all, for it is God's gift to us. Nations rise and fall, revolutions and wars make a wreck of society, but true greatness always lives, a standing miracle and an abiding revelation, to speak unto endless generations and unto all the nations of the earth of the inscrutable richness of God's wisdom, power, and goodness. This is the sublime purpose of the lives of great men. Great men and women are sent by God into the world to benefit mankind. They are his apostles and missionaries who bring to us glad tidings from heaven in order that they may effectually accomplish their errand. They are endowed by him or her, the Divine Mother, with requisite power and talents. They are created with a nature superior to that of others, which is at once the testimonial of their apostleship and guarantee of their success. They are not made great by culture or experience. They are born great. They are ordained and beautified as prophets at their birth. They succeed not because of any ability acquired through personal exertions, nor of any favorable combination of outward circumstances, but by reason of their inherent greatness. It is God's light that makes them shine and enables them to illumine the world. He puts in their very constitution something superhuman and divine, hence their greatness and superiority. They are great on account of the large measure of divine spirit which they possess and manifest. A truly great man or woman, in short, is both divine and human, both God and man. He or she is a God-man and an incarnation of God. Great men appear when they are needed. In the history of nations, there occur now and then cries of a very serious character, when the advancing side of progress makes the very foundations of society. At such times, certain great minds appear, being called forth by the peculiar necessities of the age, who avert impending perils, meet all existing wants, and remodel society on an improved basis. Hence their appearance is not a mere accident, a casual phenomenon, but the sequence of a regular and constant law, which regulates the normal interests of mankind. Their birth is always the result of a deep and irrepressible moral necessity. The great men and women cast their shadows before, and the circumstances of the age foretell their birth. Signs and prognostics herald their advent. We see a peculiar fermentation and upheaving and excitement on all sides. The 19th century Bengal witnessed the advent of such a great man in the person of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, who gathered round him a galaxy of great souls, among whom Kali Prasad, the future Swami Abhedananda, was one who, as a teenager boy, experienced the phenomena of awakening of soul at the touch of his master, to whom he was driven under circumstances which we will now narrate. As we have already seen while studying Sanskrit under Jadu Pandit, Kali Prasad had impressed his learned teacher by his profound erudition and versatile genius. The young learner heard from his venerable Pandit Mahasaya that he could get a lot of information about God if he could read the original Sanskrit scriptures, and at the same time at home, Rasiklal, who was well versed in Western philosophy, told his son that it would do him good if he could read the prominent philosophical works written in English by different authors. His mind became enthusiastic, and while pursuing his academic career, Kali Prasad contemplated to read Hindu scriptures along with his Western philosophy in the names of Mill and Hume, Spencer and Kant, and other renowned writers. Not that he could fully understand all he read, but the fact remains that a boy of 16 years of age was on the threshold of the path that ultimately led to the awakening of his soul. Calcutta in the year 1883 witnessed the appearance of a noted Hindu philosopher named Pandit Sasadhara Tarkachuramani. The name is not unfamiliar to the students of Ramakrishna literature, and there is copious reference about him in the Kathamrita. Once, Pandit Sasadhar delivered a series of public lectures on the 6 systems of Hindu philosophy at the Albert Hall under the presidentship of Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, the great scholar and writer. As usual, Kali Prasad attended the lectures. He was, however, particularly interested in the Vaiseshika and the Sankhya philosophies, on which the Pandit explained, rested the atomic theory of Kana and the evolution theory of Kapila, and compared them with similar theories of the ancient Greek philosophers, as well with the modern theory of evolution as propounded by Darwin. It is on record that these discourses aroused in him considerable interest in the systematic study of Western philosophies, both ancient and modern. Then, on another day, Kali Prasad heard Sasadhara Pandit's famous lecture on yoga philosophy of Patanjali, and since that time he became immensely drawn to Hindu psychology, as well as in the practical methods of the yoga system. This was indeed the beginning of the turning point on his career. Kali Prasad returned home and told his father all about the lecture he had heard on that day, and finally sought his permission to read Patanjali. Discouraging his son, the father said, "But, my son, it is difficult for a boy of your age to comprehend it. Boys never read Patanjali. So you give up the idea and mind your studies so that you can come out successful in the entrance examination." The boy, however, was inquisitive, and he lost no time in procuring a copy of Patanjali, and he met the price of it out of his tiffin money. He read it, and though he knew Sanskrit very well, yet he could comprehend very little of it. Now, what to do? Whatever he wanted to learn, he learnt against any odds. Such was the nature of Kali Prasad. Sasadhar Pandit was then residing at a residence in Cornwallis Street, which was at a great distance from his hometown, Ahiratola. But distance did not daunt him. So one fine morning, the boy, trudging all the way on foot, appeared before the doors of the Pandit's place. Sir, I feel an intense desire to read and understand Patanjali. Would you kindly help me in this matter? Sasadhar Pandit was surprised to hear this from a teenage boy, but busy as he was with his public engagement, it was hardly possible for him to fulfill the boy's desire. But at the same time, he directed Kali Prasad to seek the assistance from Kalabar Ventana Gashya, a noted Sanskrit scholar and philosopher of the time. Thereafter, he studied Patanjali's system under the direction of this man, who at the time was engaged in translating the Yoga Sutras and also making an elaborate commentary on them in Bengali. Later, Swami Abhedananda wrote, after completing the study of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, I turned to analyze my own mind to gain self-control and to enter into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, through the practice of Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga. Then I studied the Shiva Samhita, a treatise on the practical methods of Raja Yoga. But I was told not to practice any of these methods described in the book without being properly instructed by a competent yoga preceptor. But the way must be found out, and since that day, Kali Prasad's mind grew restless to find out a proper preceptor who could initiate him into the mysteries of yoga in its practical aspects. In his first enthusiasm, he gave it a much higher price in the scale of mental values than anything else. He wanted to become a true yogi, and how he longed for someone to guide him to this path has been recorded by him. Since then, from day to day, his thirst increased, and nothing could slake it. The hour of blossoming was about to dawn in the boy's life, who himself was a great yogi in his previous birth, as Sri Ramakrishna visualized it when he first met Kali Prasad at his own abode. Where to find an ideal preceptor who could teach me and guide me to my cherished path? This was Kali Prasad's craving of the soul day in and day out. The idea seized his mind so intensely and completely that finally he gave up food and drink and even sleep. Yet it was a state of mind which he could not express to anybody. Janaswar Bhattacharya was a friend and classmate of Kali Prasad, to whom at last the latter confided everything. His friend said, "Well, Kali, I know of a great man, a great saint and a great yogi, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa by name. He resides at Dakshineswar Kali Temple, founded by Rani Rasmani. The place is just a few miles to the north of Calcutta. Perhaps he can fulfill your desire." So told his classmate to him, and as he heard this, his joy knew no bounds. Kali Prasad then decided to make his journey towards Dakshineswar, where Sri Ramakrishna was eagerly awaiting to welcome his chosen spiritual sons as they came one by one.